Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. Today, we're going to be talking about Into the Mythical, Into the Mythica, where the magic meets reality with Peter Fay from California. And I can't wait to get into this today. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I have connected with spirit, working with a team in the non physical my entire life, sharing messages from a multitude of realms with people. I am a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, retreat host, gallery reader, writer, and so much more. But if the biggest thing is, I also offer guidance, mediumship, and so much on my own personal and private group and sessions. They are online. Most of everything I do is online, but I also have classes and the Amplified Universe monthly membership. This is a group growing our connection to us, our world, all that is around us, and our role in it. And you can find out more about me at angelazabel.com and pretty much on all the social media aspects. So you'll find me. And then today, I'm going to try to get this in order. We are here, if I get this set, with Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, and wellness, and the mysteries beyond. Sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed to promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support a collective journey to wholeness and balance. They're currently distributed in 30 states and Canada with over 17,000 magazines per printing and also a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. Have a magazine shipped to your door. Stay up to date with the newsletter and become a drop spot if you have a business. You can check out more at edgemagazine.net and also check out Kelly Wagner has the Being Curious show. So today we are here with Peter Fay. He has been over 2 decades. He has navigated through life's mythic layers, capturing the magical undercurrents that often go unnoticed. Through the lens of the camera and the stories he shares, he's documented experiences that reveal how our inner world reflects with the outer. Imagine sharing tales from sacred places around the world, intriguing characters he's met, and the real-time synchronicities that have connected that he has observed through the principles of the law of correspondence. Learning about the mythical connections with the universe and the vibrational landscapes and the hero's path that each of us treads. Into the Mythica is all about the grand design of our lives. You can find out more about Peter on his website, intothemythica.com, and all these links will be down below. He's also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can find out more on X and YouTube. He also has there's courses, sessions, so much more on his website. And again, I encourage you to go to intothemythica.com. I'm going to spell that INTOTHEMYTHICA.com. And again, all those will be down below. And I've got to say, Peter, thank you so much for being here. I've just got to ask, how did you start into the Mythica?
That is a great question, and this is my origin story. When you were saying that, I was like, wow, this Peter Fay guy sounds awesome. I want to know who he is.
That guy.
He's you. I'm like, but does anyone really know themselves?
We're all still
So,
figuring out who we are.
oh my God, it's just like the line of like, I'm trying to figure out who I am while trying to forgive who I've been in progress of who I'll be. What? So so into the Mythica, you know, what's coming to me in this moment is the idea that form follows function. Or maybe fun yes, form follows function. Right. I had a Willy Wonka moment just for a second there, but I've moved past it. Um, so I started on the Mythica as a quest to discover the real magical world. And this came about because I was born with a certain kind of perception. I actually had direct awareness of the Akasha, right? And this was where I could actually feel the element of space. So if you look at the universe as being made of like the basic elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, right? A lot of people they're only about the four, but actually the space in which everything happens is the fifth. And the Vedas, the ancient, the Indian, others, they understand that. when we mention like spirit or something, that you're talking about space. And so for me, Into the Mythica was inspired by the events in my life, but was also because of the function of my form, because I had such an awareness of the dimensional planes and my karmic architecture, like the nature of myself, was super open in the crown, but super difficult in the root. Like I could not understand the earth plane. But I mean like a really savant way, like to the point where I couldn't understand time like in a
Mhm.
basic way, because future and other event are occurring in my mind, my consciousness, and then it was like an overwhelm of sensations, like drowning in emotion, very difficult. The closest thing I can speak to is it's like the X-Men, like when you have like a superpower and stuff like that. And when I was about 13 years old, I was wandering through a rainstorm, and I'd always had a super resonance with the deva or the elemental spirits of the rain. And a lightning bolt hit like an Upper West Side New York City, and a lightning bolt hit the pavement, illuminating everything around me, and time stopped,
Nice.
or at least slowed down considerably, right? And the raindrops were all like this, and I'm like 13 years old, and I'm looking at this, and I can see each of the people's faces through the individual raindrops are distorted,
Interesting.
and that they're by the water. You know
Interesting.
what I'm saying? Like you're looking through the water, and not my awesome apple juice, but like a glass of water, right? And right, and and I saw that there was this deep intuition that was communicated to me by the deva, by the elemental spirits, that we were made of this watery substance, which I
Oh,
later realized was called the ether. We were made of earth, air, water, fire in suspended in the medium of the ether. And then
in,
I was like, whoa, each of these is an ego. Now I wouldn't have called it that at the time,
right.
but it because I was like, whoa, and I could see geometric patterns between where the raindrops were falling from sky to the earth, frozen in time or slowing down considerably, right? Where I could see there was like a geometry of relationship to the wind and the gravity and the ambient moisture and all of these things, where each of these different faces and personalities of the people, I realized intuitively that we were essentially all made of the elements, suspended in the ether, and that our point of view was like we were looking through our individual raindrop.
Interesting. Interesting. So, when you were seeing these raindrops with the people, and were there people around you, or was it like a
Yeah,
reflection
no,
of
no, no, I was right
the?
on the street. It was walking through New York City. Like
Wow.
New York City, Upper West Side. I think I just came from a movie or something with my aunt, and so it wasn't, but there was another occurrence months later where I was in the storm. And again, because it's very resonant with, and grew up in Long Island. So these are the hurricane type storms
Oh,
that
yes.
hit on the edge of the water. Because remember, Long Island is like on the eastern seaboard. Like New Orleans is on the eastern seaboard. Even though it's lower, it's more south, so you get more of that. But still,
Right.
that's the thing. And I was like just it was basically yelling to the lightning, and screaming like magic to the lightning. And I had the I actually have you ever did you ever read like Captain Marvel, like Shazam?
I've seen some of the shows with Shazam.
Totally. So the whole basis of Shazam was that Shazam back in the day, he's this kid, Billy Batson. And Billy Batson says, Shazam! Right? And the bolt of lightning comes down, which
Yes.
then grants him the powers of like the Greek gods that he's like defined by, right?
Yes.
And I, flush with like youthful and my magic and stuff like that, screamed that to the lightning as like a desperate attempt to get a grip on my own flickering consciousness. And that's a big thing there. And I had an encounter, like there was another moment in the lightning when I did, and I had an encounter with the muses of story, song, and dance. Classically, Calliope, Euterpe, and Terpsichore from the Greek pantheon,
Nice.
muses. And it was a whole encounter. And I ended up devoting my life to the embodiment of it. The story, song, and dance became the devotional center point of my consciousness. And this is important because, from where I come from, so I come from a very like this is my first time being human kind of a space, right?
Mhm.
And accordingly, the basic physics of being human, I tend to see things. Let's just put this in context. I I went through a period of seeing everything super elementally and not understanding to seeing everyone as the gods, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. And then I eventually
That's
started to realize that we were all made of these mortal foibles and stuff like that, including me, right? That we were all made of these mortal foibles and stuff like that. And even though we embodied these elemental archetypes, where they were playing out through like a multitude of selves, and this was going on. And for me, it was a progression from this like elemental perspective, so on and so forth. So I started with this overwhelming awareness.
mm.
And then I had the experience with the Akasha of the Deva, which is elemental. And then I had the experience with the Muses, which was also elemental, but like with closer to form. Like I remember when I aligned with story, song, and dance, I remember there was like a kind of like a geomathematical pattern that they embodied. Like
I was just going to ask, how did it look to you? How did they present themselves to you?
I could sense the form in the liminal space of the muses themselves, like, but that was like so flimsy. It was like
Mhm.
I was having this experience of like the geometric archetype of the essence of story, song, and dance. And I realized in that moment, and I'm like 13, 14 years old, that all of the gods and all of the pantheons and all of those things are all just a pattern in the
Mm.
ether, in the rain, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it was like, so there was that. And then I resolved because I was drowning in overwhelm of my senses. Like I
Mm.
was, I real later I realized that I had a form of spatial synesthesia where I was experiencing like the blend between the senses in a
Oh,
spatial way. So like these objects are moving through space, right?
right.
So I would feel it like that, like feel it in the kinetic field. And this really, really influenced me because it was this, like I was trying to make sense of the overwhelm of my life.
Because it wasn't the normal that you can really talk to anybody about. So it's like you were trying to figure it out on your own, and having
Mhm.
those experiences are huge.
Yeah, and I actually had no idea that other people didn't see it that way. Why
Oh,
would I?
right, because why would you assume everybody else does?
Of course I did, right? And I just didn't get that. And so that became, and that's the aforementioned progression of like, oh, we're the God. Whoa, why'd you act that way? Whoa, why did I act that way? What do you mean shadow? What do you mean Kali Yuga? What are you talking about? I don't like that. And so and so like and so what ended up happening was that so I was moving from one state of being to another uncontrollably, meaning my sense of identity would shift. Like I'd have
Oh,
access to a certain sense of self with associated talents, like being a good writer, or being a this, or being a that, or understanding mathematics, or something, blah, blah. And then that shape would shift
yeah,
uncontrollably, right? And I would become another version of myself, another raindrop of the self.
right.
And then I'd have different like talents. And then that would shift and they'd be gone. And it was like this super uncontrollable thing, which became extremely difficult because I couldn't maintain a shape long enough to anchor into anything. Now, this is decades before the concept of a super ungrounded root chakra with highly advanced crown chakra as a karmic architecture was even a concept.
Right.
This is like I'm like drowning in something. So I resolved, and so I was very into stories, and so I was super into stories like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Nice.
where you have this intrepid explorer and he like travels forward and like he leaves trails for other people to follow with their duck, right? And with Gertrude the duck,
The guy.
right? Who I believe was the mastermind, just to say, of
Together.
that genre. But I also feel that the new Superman movie was actually starring crypto. So
There's a lot in movies that are cognizant and reflective of things that are happening in our world and have happened in our world.
of course, that's the nature of story. So for me, so I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I played, I was into the video games and books like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth, Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and because I was a huge comic book fan, Alan Moore's Promethea.
Mm.
Now, most people know the first two. Do you know the third one?
No, I was just going to say I don't know that one.
Okay, so this is important. Alan Moore, who's a super famous comic book writer, really great writer, right? He wrote a number of he wrote Watchmen, he wrote V for Vendetta, he wrote The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Like he wrote a lot of really good stuff. And he wrote a book. He got into Hermetic magic, and he wrote a book called Promethea, Promethea. And Promethea was using the comic book medium to describe the adventures of the protagonist, Sophie Bangs. So, yeah, as she embodies the demigoddess Promethea. And now he uses the whole thing to teach the
Mm.
Kabbalah. So he's using the comic book format, like the modern hieroglyph.
Right.
I had always seen the comics as to teach Hermetic magic, like to teach the Tree of Life, to teach like the Sephiroth, like blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking
Interesting.
at this, yeah, and I'm looking at this, plus the Jules Verne thing, plus the Douglas Adams thing, this Promethea thing, and I'm saying, I keep moving between different realms.
Mm.
These are different worlds of perception,
Yeah.
but also of reality, because there's that, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, I'm flickering back and forth uncontrollably. I'm going to anchor myself by being devoted to story, song, and dance and being the explorer, like Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Mm.
document my quest like a from the hip gonzo mythic journalist, like the
Love it.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
illustrate that in a comic book to ground myself out.
But what a perfect way to do it, though, because there wasn't everything out there. I don't think. I mean, there was some stuff out there, but not much. You kind of really had to find your way. And what a perfect way for this. I call it synchronicities. You call it the law of correspondence from the universe. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. And so I mapped you.
can you explain that a little more
I,
with the
I
law of
totally can. So,
correspondence?
so, and this is the essence of the thing. So, going back to the droplet metaphor, right? Or actually the actual thing is
Yeah.
that if you look at raindrops, and by the way, just to say, Angela, years, I spent years trying to find a way to distill what I'm saying in a way that connects with the people. Because it's
Oh,
just talking about something that's kind of like a city, Siddhi, right? Like, and
yeah.
for your viewers, it's like I realized that I was born with what people consider like the yoga superpower of like a siddhi, which is like, there's people levitate, they do this, they
Oh,
do that, that kind of
yeah.
stuff. But for me, the most useful siddhi in a super yoga way was showing people that there is no separation. The other stuff is like parlor tricks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like it
Yes.
only has so much actual value. And what I wanted to do was show how there's a thing, but there was a survival component in it in that I couldn't understand the basic patterns of being human. And
Mm.
This is really important because so if you look at rain, this is my like I've learned how to communicate what I'm saying. If you look at rain and raindrops hit like a puddle
Right.
or the ocean, they create a ripple.
Yes.
People's souls incarnate into bodies. The bodies are like raindrops. If like the raindrop is containing like a human body, right? And it hits the ethers of consciousness or the subtle layer of form, the ultra subtle layer of form, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, right? And it
Right.
ripples out. It lives in the ripples of itself.
Love that.
Right? The ripples of itself are its perception and the reality that it experiences as it moves through, coming back to the Akasha, space. Ether is space. The self moves through space. And I try to explain this to people. So, again, this took me years to express because when we look at the journey to the center of the earth, Arne Sukasum, he's the first explorer. He's traveling down the volcano and he's discovering like the crystals and the mycelium and the
Mm.
dinosaurs, and then there's the ocean below, and then he gets to Atlantis, and there's a whole thing, right? And that was Jules Verne's vision back then. And
Right.
then in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, space is really, 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 really just so much bigger than you could possibly conceive of. And I'm like,
Right.
and so when you were saying like the movies and the da, 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 that they speak to things in society, I'm like, of course they do. Because from my vantage, we are made of stories.
Yeah. Yes.
But then this became a deep dive into like what is the substance of a story, which then became what is the substance of identity, which then
Mm.
comes into is what is the ego, which then comes into how are we living our myth. So if you look on my website, it says live your myth. I got to live my myth. I've lived the real heroic journey, real time. Left New York City in 2002, studied magic for 4 years at an academy, now defunct, in the mountains of Lake Tahoe, traveled around using my camera to document
Mm.
the ripples of my raindrop in order to understand my passage through the ethers.
Love that. I love the fact that you documented it through your camera to know and to remember because a lot of times people do things and then you look back even a year or 6 months ago and you go, oh, I did that. I don't even remember doing it.
There it is. That's the issue.
Yes.
That's the issue. That and I'm like, just that's the no bones about it. It's the prison and the prism. Karma is made of memory,
Yes.
right? So it's still
Yes.
happening. Something that's repeating is a memory, and you don't remember something, it's a memory. And it's like we don't remember these things. So I was like, I'm gonna hold on to that because I started using the camera as a means of reminding myself of the state of being that I was in when I
Mhm.
saw the magic.
That's huge because a lot of people keep saying, well, I'm not making any progress. I don't think I'm getting anywhere. I don't think I'm learning anymore. But when you document where you were, that's huge because you can see it instead of trying to remember because a lot of times you're off to the next thing. You don't even remember what you did.
Right. And that was like in essence, so my personal quest in the Mythica had that underlying quality of service. Like I wanted to create a framework that helped other people really remember the events. And this was like looking at, well, what is the physics of story?
Right.
You know, and over the course of the years, I ended up so I went on the quest. So in 2002, right after the World Trade Centers
Mhm.
fell, which I
Yep.
saw from my rooftop.
Wow.
You want to talk about like the tarot card of like the tower? You know what I'm saying? Like
Um,
I'm watching the towers fall from my rooftop, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do now? It's like I'm gonna smoke a joint. Go back and get some sushi because I don't know if it's Armageddon.
I can imagine seeing that and witnessing that. You went, no, like, well, this might be it, you
This
know?
might be it. And so, people, I mean, it was crazy. And so it was but there was a sense in the ethers and something that I get at in the Mythica, and we're going to get into this, right? Is
Yes.
that what I'm saying when I talk about the Mythica?
Yeah.
People years would ask me, what is the Mythica? right? And in my story, I've labored to show the progression of how I came to the revelation of the Mythica. This was me being the explorer of the journey to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
I've labored to document it, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've labored to create it in a mythopoetic format so I can show you the shorthand of it in a comic book, but don't worry, there's videos, you know what I'm saying? And there's interviews and stuff like that. And the whole idea was to give people the Mythica. What is the Mythica? The Mythica is the mythopoetic layer of life. She's the landscape, the geometry of the patterns.
Mm.
For example, you and I are sitting here, and on the surface of life,
Yes.
we look a certain way. But energetically, archetypically, in the dimensions of life, we
Mm.
are these archetypical avatars, having a panther. We are the gods. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Because we're made of the elements.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And all of the like expressions, whether it's like some of the you've got on the back of your thing there, right? Or it's like okay, just to say, see the picture that you've got there of the tree, the person, all the branches of the tree.
Yep. Yep.
That's the lattice of what people call the world tree, or what I call the grove of life, because it's
Mm.
the weave of our synchronicities that
Yeah.
are our various timelines coming together into the great story, where you are on Angela's timeline, I'm on Peter's timeline. We are intersecting at this moment in space-time in
Yes.
synchronicity, and this is happening. And that's the theater of life, but in a very grounded way. And so, what I'm saying is that in the Mythica, we are like a priestess and a magician and like a goddess of this and a god of that. It just depends on what octave you look at it from, but it's all essentially the elements.
Great.
And so so what I wanted to do in the Mythica was say there is an underlying layer to our life, and that there is a map to our myth and a landscape to our legend that's specific to us and which exists in a collective context.
Mm.
So what I got really into from the documentation of my timeline for 20 years was can you see this? You see the little
Yes.
thingy? I got like a cord up, was
Yep.
my timeline, the thread of my timeline. 2002, I left New York. 2003, I discovered a bunch of magicians in Santa Cruz Mountains. 2004, 5, 6, 7, I was studying at the academy. 2008, I traveled to Canada. 2009, I went to Scotland, right, on the ferry road with a couple of bards that I met. 2010, I ended up in the Santa Fe, right, and I ended up traveling and the whole thing was me witnessing the progression of events on my timeline, which then said that, well, if I have a timeline and you have a timeline and everyone else has a timeline, then there's like a cat's cradle of synchronicities,
Yeah.
a tapestry of timelines. And I
Yeah.
realized you see what I'm getting at?
Yes. How it all intersects, how we all intersect on so many different levels. And my team is just showing me, looking at the layers of a tapestry, the actual physical thread work of the tapestry, how it all goes together, and how each of us can be in multiple layers, touching and creating with multiple people all through our lives.
Yeah. And so when I talk about the Mythica, I'm saying that just like in Journey to the Center of the Earth, he's going down into the layers of the earth. The crystals, the mushrooms, the dinosaurs, the ether sea, Atlantis, da, 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 right? What I realized was that it's like the journey to the center of the self. The
Mhm.
self is made of these layers. The
That's true.
ego is made of these layers. So it's like you have the surface layer. Now you've got the subconscious layer. Now you've got the collective unconscious layer. You've
Mm.
got the archetypical layer. You go all the way down to the elemental layer. And that in this framework that played out for me, I saw there as being 5 layers, but I have to say that systems happen, systems arrive relative to the age that you're in. So it's never a hard and fast. Everybody perceives things in accordance with what's relevant because of the
Right.
ideas that are in the Akash at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we're in the Kali Yuga, we're trying all this stuff is transforming, certain ideas are coming through. Your whole show or promo for the Edge magazine or even the Mythica, they couldn't exist if the Schumann resonance wasn't at a certain point.
Yes. Yes.
There wouldn't be the gravity for it.
Right. It wouldn't be possible. And that's why you're seeing more and more shows like this, like others at this time, because the resonance is there. The resonance is there, and people are opening up and saying, "Give me more. I want to hear more. I want to understand more about who I am."
Right,
And before we were in survival, who had time to figure out who they were? And why did we care? We just wanted to survive. And now
right.
there's more to life.
Ugh, want meat. Go cave, make nug nug. What? No, dude, I'm trying to understand the quantum dynamic. No. No. And so so what I was on about was, and I'm figuring this out as I'm going on because what I noticed is that so I was flickering between different realms,
Mhm.
right? Uncontrollably. What I decided to do was I started to use my camera to catch the moment of lightning because a camera is essentially made of lightning, right? So camera's a lightning magic. It's made of the element of lightning. It's electricity, right? This
Yes.
brings back to my connection to the sky deva, to the lightning bolt. So
Uh,
now I'm like catching a moment in time, frozen time, of what? When I was experiencing a certain perception of life.
right.
Like I'm like, oh wait, I'm in the Mythica, and there would be a sensation with that. So the photos became a form of psychometry for me, where the impressions in the photo would remind me and help me like get back to that state of being.
Mm.
So after the towers fell in New York City, I was like, okay, I'm done. Right, I'm out.
Done with that area.
That's that area of life. It's just like, okay, ding. The towers have fallen. It's the end of the old paradigm. I'm out. And so I ended up leaving New York City and embarking on a quest for 20 years to
Wow.
document my journey into the Mythica and to return. So now there's something really important about this. So when I was in New York City and I was documenting the thing, because I was so connected to the Deva and not so connected to like human society,
Hmm.
right? I would
Yes.
like walk through the streets of the city naturally, and it was like the people were like the blood cells of the city.
Mm.
It's like the taxi cabs and everything, and the pulse of the lights of were like the electrical system of the city herself, like the Devi of like Loki of like the energy of the place. That was where I was coming from,
Right.
right? So I wasn't connected with like this person is going here to get a bagel for their lunch and and they're thinking these stuff. That it almost didn't. It was like a savant thing. Something didn't exist.
Right. Got it. Yep.
Right? So I'd be wandering through the city having like communion with the Deva. And one night I went to Central Park. And I took some mushrooms and I started out right by there's a brass Alice in Wonderland statue
Okay.
right up in Central Park. I think it's in the upper west side, somewhere like that, right? And you can enter you're entering the park, right? And the statue is there. And I
Right.
enter the park and you got to understand things are made of things. So in the ethers of consciousness, you know, someone sculpting the statue of Alice in Wonderland is very present of the idea that Alice in Wonderland is made of because that's what the statue represents, right? So
Yes.
the energy of the book itself or the idea of going into the rabbit hole and encountering these characters is actually physically there in the statue.
It embodies that.
It
The statue
embodies that.
embodies that.
Yeah, it's not
Yes.
even just a symbol. That's actually the better word, right? It embodies that. And as I'm there, this whole thing, so I end up kneeling down by like a stream and going through a whole process of like a healing with my relationship with the mother of the earth, right? And I don't want to be rejected, by this place because it's so difficult. This is before I realized I was rejecting the place. That's a whole other thing. But that's a whole other thing. And though intimately, intrinsically related in a horrific and enlightening way. And so I'm there going to no, and I'm
Yeah.
there going through this process. And the deva speak to me, the water speak to me, and I could always speak to the deva. It gets enhanced if I take some medicine, but it's always on for me. It's a base state.
Right.
And so, I go through this thing, and now I start wandering. I walk through Central Park all through the night. This is from like midnight to like 4 a.m. or like 10 p.m. And it was dark when I started, like getting dark. So it might have been like 7 o'clock to like, 4 a.m. or something like that. And I'm walking through the park alone and I'm having this whole experience because understand, Alice in Wonderland is a certain texture, physical embodiment, right?
Right. Right.
Central Park has all of the people of New York walking through her all the time with their thoughts and their sensations and all of their karmic architectures. It
Right.
all happens on the land, on the park herself. So human beings and their people's incarnations are flickering. They're super impermanent, right? The land endures. The
Right.
land abides. We walk on the land. The land doesn't walk on us. People
Right.
they don't realize that, right? The land is the land. The goddess is the goddess. We're Shakti is Shakti. You know what I'm saying? And we're like an idea. And so I'm wandering through the park, and what's coming to me through the shape of story, song and dance, that is my devotion, right?
Right.
And I'm realizing that. So in New York, I mean, it's a very erudite place. So you've got like a lot of people who are writers and artists. It's New York City, you know?
Yeah.
And what's coming to me as I'm walking through the park and I'm walking along, have you ever been to Central Park?
I have not. Not yet.
Okay, so Central Park is in the center of New York
Yes.
City, right? And Central Park has all these pathways in it that have like these archways
Yeah.
that are like straight out of like, a medieval. You know what I'm saying? And I'm walking through these things and I'm going over the bridge and under the thing. And as I'm going over the bridge, I'm having this sense of I'm bridging between worlds,
Mm.
between dimensions. I'm physically walking through the park, right? On
Right.
the surface.
Yes.
And it occurs to me that Alice in Wonderland is about the journey into the rabbit hole of one's own subconscious
Mm.
and their archetypical patterns. This is what's coming to me from the vibrations of Alice in Wonderland inside the context of New York City, inside the context of the land, with me as an elemental being having an experience of communion with the goddess. That makes sense, yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And so I realized in this instance that every book, every movie, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Earthsea, blah, 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 right? Game of Thrones is about the journey into the archetypes of the self because
Yes.
every journey is about the self. It's all about going into the rabbit hole shamanically.
Yes.
It's all about going into the deep patterns of where? The underground. Of what? Yourself. Right? It's all about going through that. I'm going to face the cave. You go into the tree, and Luke is just like, "What's in the tree?" And Yoda's all like, "Well, look out what you bring with you."
You're pretty good at that.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, I've actually been called the Obi-Wan of my generation. So the and
Well,
so yeah, and so as this is going on, I'm having this whole experience that all stories are an expression of human beings exploring the territories of being human through metaphor.
yeah.
And I'm
It's
realizing that Dungeons and Dragons or any of the games I played back in the day, this was before Skyrim, but this was like, any of those RPG type games like Zork, right?
right.
Games like that going way back into are all based on the journey of the self. But that, this was like say when Stan Lee created the Fantastic Four. Those are the elements. Earth, air, fire, water, right? When the X-Men, you have like the children born with mutant powers. And I'm
Right.
realizing, oh, this is puberty and it's the emergence of our various talents. But for me, because of the range of my awareness, we are the gods, or at least the demigods,
Yes.
semi-gods. A friend of mine told me once, right?
That's
No, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? I like
semi.
semi-art.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And so,
No.
and, and so like the it was the realization that we are these characters. And so I was on the like, okay, in my devotion to story, I'm gonna leave New York. The tower has fallen. It's game over in this context, right? And now I'm leaving New York to go on a quest. Now, around that time, my father passed away. And when he passed away, my dad was like a real like, super businessman in the 80s. Like I came from a wealthy family. He was very successful in the 80s, and he was like, like that. And I had the whole concept of like the king is dead. Long live the king.
Mm,
I was like, I'm the oldest son. But I was like, but I'm not a king. I'm like more like an oracle and like, kind of dealing with overwhelm. And I was like, I felt like I had to like achieve something. So I went out on the quest because New York was overwhelming me by that time. Like I,
yeah.
I was getting overwhelmed by the vibrations. Especially being ungrounded, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, I have to get out of here. And when he died, I inherited a bit of money. So I used that to fund the quest. So I left New York in 2002 and I started documenting the synchronicities of my path as a proof of the law of correspondence. It was,
So why do you call it the law of correspondence? You say the synchronicities of the law of correspondence. Can you explain that a little bit?
yes. So remember I said the thing with the ripple of the raindrop?
Hmm. Yes.
So you've heard the phrase that we live in, you live in the outer reflection of your own vibrational state.
Yeah.
That's the law of correspondence. Law of correspondence is another way of saying the law of correspondence is as above, so below, as within, so without. And it
Got it.
all relates to the idea that the inner vibrational state has a causal effect on the outer manifest world. If you're made of this and this vibration, you're going to encounter those kind of patterns in the path. That is the assumption of that. That's
Yeah.
and what I came to see was that at most, if not all, of the healing arts and energetic arts, excuse me, healing arts and energetic arts and stuff like that are based on that premise. They're based in the idea that I am living in the reflections of myself. So, and the idea is that if you change this pattern inside yourself, it's going to change that pattern in your outer reality. So you have people like saying, I'm going to do this Akashic clearing, I'm going to clear these subconscious patterns, we're going to do this process, we're going to do a yoga kriya to clear out the subconscious, we're going to do some journey work to go into the self, have a relationship with the inner child. This is all based on clearing the karmic patterns in the substance of
Yeah.
one's raindrop so as to change one's perspective and thus change the reality that they live in.
That is very true. Changing that change, you change your reality when you change, especially what you're focusing on. Who do you think you are? You change your reality immediately.
If you can hold it.
If you can hold it.
That's
Yes.
the brass tacks of all
Ah, yes. And
that.
how do you hold it?
What's that?
And I'm just hearing my team is just going, and how do you hold it? How have you found ways to hold it?
It was super hard for me.
Yeah.
Like I still deal with it actually because it's like the you want to be able to ground your energies into the self, but this is like a medley of like acceptance of being human. This is like a medley of like you're doing a bunch of emotional modifiers to essentially drop into your body.
Right.
But then that is nuanced because you might not even have access to those perspectives. Like as I came to see, most people don't have my point of view. You know what I'm saying? They live in what I call the mundus because everything from the mundane level of things, of
God.
themselves. But understand, this is the key thing. You're not mundane. You're the gods.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you're the elements made you. It would actually be a better way of saying it. You're the elements. We're all the elements doing something. This gets back to the droplet, right?
Yes.
So what I realized was that how we anchor that is what everyone wants, but you have to have access to it before you can even anchor it because you can't see it. It's really a big deal. It's like people's abundance. Like, if you can't see an idea, can you act on it?
Pretty hard.
Pretty hard. You have no idea what it is.
Right.
You don't know how to grasp it. You can't hold on to it. You can't see $1 million idea? No $1 million. You can't hold on to the idea that you did the discipline to do something. You can't see the elements of it. Can't get out. Like, it is on like a time lock, and this was like this is the brass tacks of it. And so what I realized was, as I was documenting my journey into the Mythica, I was documenting the landscape of the synchronicities, which I felt were a reflection of the energies inside of me. So, like a cartographer, a map maker,
Yeah.
right? Journey to the Center of the Earth, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Alan Moore's Promethea. I'm now witnessing the things that are happening on my path in order to make sense of where I'm at and what kind of reflections I'm encountering. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I've got to ask, when you were documenting this, when you're taking the photographs, when you're taking photographs, are you taking photographs of like the world around you and a picture of yourself in that moment?
Oh,
What were the
that's the
photographs you were doing?
well, that's the thing. So I started, it's a great question, actually.
Yeah.
So I started documenting the signs and the synchronicities, right? Because I was like, oh, that meant something for me in this moment. I'm going to document that and I'm going to record that and figure out what the universe was saying to me. And then I started getting into witnessing the people, places, and events that happened on my quest. And I had a strict discipline with this. I
Mm.
was like, I'll never set the photos up. Like, no Photoshop, no sets, no models. Like, you got to arrive in
Got it.
synchronicity.
Yes.
And this eventually grew into a concept of what I call the Hollywood as compared to the Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
Hollywood is makeup, sets, designs, contrivance, strategy, la 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 la. It's the dressing on something. The Hollywood is, I met this person at a fireside and we had the shamanic experience at the top of Mount Shasta at this moment in something something something, and this went down. And but what I realized was that, and this is where Promethea comes in. In order to illustrate the shift in consciousness, I needed to not only shoot the photos of what was going on, I needed to create a way of showing that,
Mm.
like showing the inner state,
Yes.
right? So then I started, like, I was drawing it, and then I was associating the drawings with the photos. And then I was like, and then I started like, okay, I'm building it out into my timeline, and I'm like gradually divining what's going on by looking at the photos and looking at the photos, because I ended up living a full-on Percy Jackson Harry Potter life. Full on. Full on. I went to school for magic for 4 years in the mountains. I did a spell that summoned a magic. I had like a direwolf for like 10, right? I was going by the name Griffin at magic school. Wasn't even thinking about the movies. People started calling me Gryffindor. Right. I travel. Oh yeah, no, I traveled to Canada where I actually ended up having like a suit of like basically elvish armor made for me, like this leather armor with like all these stones in it. I have a
No.
oh, for real. I have a couple of swords over there. One was given to me by an avatar of the god Karunos. Another one was given to me by an avatar of the god Ogun, right? And these are
Nice.
people, but they're people embodying that aspect in that moment.
Right.
And I'm encountering them on this journey. So I ended up going to school. So I went to Lake Tahoe. I ended up meeting an oracle by the name of LaFay, which is funny, right? And where she started teaching me the tarot and
Oh,
divinations. And so there was a moment when, so I started to realize that The characters in the tarot cards, like you will meet a tall, dark stranger, right?
Yeah.
Like the characters in the tarot cards were us. Like we were
Yeah.
the king of hearts, we were the fool, we were the magician, we were the high priestess, and that we were occurring in each other's lives as these embodied characters at specific moments in synchronicity.
Yes.
And then
That's
this,
I was just going to say that's interesting to look at. We are the tarot. We are everything that's in there. I mean, most of us have had a lot of those experiences that are in that tarot, and you're recognizing which one it is at the moment.
yeah. And so there was a moment when, and this was important, was that so I was traveling around in Lake Tahoe. There's a place called Emerald Bay, and Emerald Bay is like the only bay in Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe, you've got a road goes all the way around the lake. It's a beautiful lake surrounded by mountains, right? It's like Asgard,
Yeah,
like Lake Tahoe is like Olympic class snow, bears. There's bears. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a hardcore place. And
right.
in Emerald Bay, I was stopped by Emerald Bay, and I had this whole vision that there was no separation between ourselves and the land. And this was actually something that had come to me years earlier when I was on Kauai, because I went to Kauai right after I left New York City in 2002 after the towers fell.
Yeah.
And where the land in Hawaii was showing me that there was no separation between the self and the soil, meaning we are an aspect of the land.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that what I realized I was documenting in the Mythica was the subtle layer of the land. This became a whole framework because it was understanding that just as you have, say, in a five dimension system, the conscious, subconscious, collective unconscious, archetypes of consciousness, and elements of consciousness that we're investigating in our own journey into the rabbit hole of ourselves, right? That there was a parallel to the land herself, that there were atmospheres to the land. This is where Journey to the Center of the Earth came in. There were
Yes.
atmospheres to the land that were the macroscopic aspect of a more individualized thing. So it's like the surface of the world of the self, conscious mind, or what we're conscious of, became what I called the terrasphere or the surface of the land, or sometimes the mundus, you know, the subconscious I saw as the landscape of like you've gone a little bit into the self, you're in the branches of the tree of life, going back to the picture of the tree behind,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Branches of the tree of life, right? So the self is like the leaves. So I'm saying that the grove of life or the tree of life, the world tree, is it's the material plane,
Yeah.
right? And we are made of that. But when we're walking on our timeline, we're walking along our particular woven twine of root and branch of that tree. This is the way to see it. It's like your timeline is a weave of roots and branches that you're walking on as a character inside the infinite tree of the world. And so when someone goes into their subconscious, I was like, okay, you've gone from the leaves to the branches of
Mm.
identity. Now you go into the collective unconscious. You've gone from the branches to the roots of identity. This is all about the ego. And then
Yeah.
going from the roots down to the archetypes of the self, what makes identity. Now you've got your Sephiroth, which are like your archetypical forms. You've got like your archetypes of the tarot. You've got like different qualities of like astrologies and stuff like that,
Mm.
human design. And that's like the seed. And then I saw that the elements themselves were like the soil. So now the understanding of the droplet of consciousness living in the reflection of itself was gradually becoming an understanding that we are a part of the planet and that the planet and ourselves, being the same thing, have layers to them. So when people do entheogens, the psilocybin, ayahuasca, combo, whatever, right? They are having an experience of the deeper layers of the planetary intelligence that are expressing itself through us and the characters that we're playing. And this was my attempt to really map out what's going on. Because if I say to you, I went to Lake Tahoe and I studied in a tradition that had the elemental energies of the Arthurian mythos in a landscape that was very much the Norse Asgardian mythos and the Celtic mythos, and I shot all these photos of it, right? Then I say I moved to Oregon, right, where I met all these cast of characters who were very much of the fairy energy. These are real people, right?
Yes.
Living in that Avalonian vibe, the goddess temple of Ashland, or I'm going to Mount Shasta. This is in that area, right? Or,
Right.
so on and so forth. And I'm realizing that vibrationally, law of correspondence, I'm living a real life Harry Potter, Percy Jackson adventure. I'm
Sure.
documenting stories. I'm with my wolf. I'm traveling around like through the thing, living in Carnia, right? But at the time I had money, right? It's a Carnia, the magical parking lot of Narnia when you live in your car. And I'm traveling around and I'm encountering all of these archetypical characters, magicians, priestesses, modern Jedi, kings, queen, and I'm like, what is going on? But I'm documenting. And over time, I start to see that the same types of characters are arriving on the story,
Hmm.
no matter where I go. Celtic
And
avatars, Norse avatars, whoa, there's correspondence there. I'm clearly made of those energies because those energies are appearing in my field. I get it. We are all these characters on this landscape of subtle energies.
yes. And you draw that in again and again
Right.
and again, which,
Right. And it's saying to me, oh, this is the world that I live in. But then what I started getting into and was that so it's like I travel and I'm meeting all these characters who are like essentially royals of fairy. There's a festival called Fairy Worlds that was around for a while in Oregon, and it's
mhm,
run by my friends Emilio Lopez and Kelly Miller Lopez, and they're like bards of the old tradition. And my friends Jesse Winden and Raven Winden, they're like these kind of very mystical beings living in,
right.
they're all kind of centered in like Eugene, Oregon, and they're putting on this festival. And all of these people from the clans of fairy, this is like the Cascadia of the Pacific Northwest, are arriving at this festival. So now I'm being led to different festivals because those were a
Oh,
real expression of the mythopoesis of life, right?
right.
And I'm seeing these festivals as like confluences of these like magicians and priestesses and in the modern age,
Right.
right? And so I'm like, oh whoa, like there's a pattern beneath the path. Why am I encountering these types of beings out of all the beings that I could be encountering? Why in
Yes.
synchronicity am I running into? And I'm thinking like, wow, I'm encountering the magical version of the world because of my devotion to story and my service of documenting it for the people. So I'm having this whole vibe of like, yes, as I'm giving this to others, I'm getting it.
Yes. I think that's the coolest thing is, every time you're doing it, you're documenting, you're drawing it in, and you're saying, you're observing like the mythical fairy people and those in all different realms, and you're seeing them in the modern age because it's almost, I know you work with the Akash, you talk about the Akash, and it's almost like my team is just showing me almost like in another timeline, which are all going on at the same time where they are in that fairy realm and now they're here in this human fairy realm showing themselves in the physical so you can take the picture.
Right. Like remember what happened in the beginning of our story. It's like we didn't see the picture of me. Like
Yes.
it was just the background of like the northern lights. It's like, no, 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 I am the Rainbow Bridge. I am the World Tree. But now I've come into human form. Wait, now I'm gone. Found it again. Now I'm gone. Now I'm in. Oh my God, the thing is locked. I can't get out.
For those of you who don't know, before we started, we always kind of go through stuff ahead of time. And Peter was just his background for a while, just the energy
Gone.
gone, and then he'd appear, and then he'd be gone.
And then I locked in something I did with the program and I couldn't shift out again. And I'm like, there you have it. The mortal
Yeah,
dimension. There we go. You know?
he was magical.
And but the thing is that I got super into the inquiry of like, for example, in time. Remember I said in the beginning of the episode, I might have said it in the precursor zone, I don't know. I couldn't understand time.
Mm.
I was experiencing future and past events. I was experiencing people as made of the elements. I didn't understand identity the way people understood it. I wasn't experiencing that. So the documentation of my timeline became a real deep dive into what is the thread of the mortal plane.
Yes.
And this plays out in a very mythopoetic way because having lived the real hero's journey, I can tell you, like from experience, right? Every journey is defined by your relationship with the fates: birth, progression, death. The
Got it.
fates supersede the gods. That is the length of the thread of your timeline. It is being mortal. Or as I will say in my impromptu comedy routine, and now for a limited time, mortality.
I love it.
And so, it was like I realized I was being a modern bard and that I was telling the story and wanting to give people the framework for their story, using my story as an example, but
Mm.
not just me. My intent in building the Mythica, which I'm just getting to publishing now because I just got back from the 20-year quest. I took 3 years to build everything, right? Is to interview characters from the world of the Mythica and
Nice.
show their timelines as well as mine, so as
Interesting.
to show how all those timelines intersect, so as to show how we are being this pantheon of characters for each other in this moment. But this is like a deep dive into the mortal condition because it's like for example, it took me a while to realize, we're all aging here. It's not like we get to, I mean, no, that's obvious to a lot of people, but for me, like, I was like, whoa, 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 and it's just like we get to be these characters for certain periods of time. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? We get to be like the young, vibrant goddess or the young, vibrant god, or going through your thing, this is a red-haired witch, you know what I'm saying, or so on and so forth, like that, right? And so, and then we get older, and but it's the nature of being mortal. But the pattern of it is more constant than the individual. We get to be these elemental archetypes for a period of time.
Yeah.
Inside, just to quote the Buddha vibe, the sanskara, the impermanent collection of elements that makes up the self, right?
Yes.
For a period of time. And in that period of time, we embody these stories. So in the Mythica, I'm documenting the progression through my story, the expression of my story, which was Celtic, Norse, Galactic, Peter Fay, agent of Bard, Bardic Arts Research and Development, right? And I mean, it's like totally, right? I would tell you that story. But for someone else, super Egyptian vibe.
Yeah.
Hathor, Set, blah, blah, blah. Somebody else, Pleiadians. Somebody else, blah, 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 Atlantis. But all of these things, when you really look at it, are self-identity, which is impermanent and constantly changing. So
Right.
we're taking a snapshot of what our current mythos is and seeing that there's a landscape of myth. And this really relates to the idea of purpose and relates to the idea of like living our myth. People want to embody the magic.
Yeah.
They want to have access to it, right? This is a viewpoint thing. We can't see things because most people, and this is all of us. When I say people, please understand, I am not exempt. I'm not saying that
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
I assure you.
I'm gonna say I'm not exempt from
Yeah,
any of
no,
this
no, no, no,
either.
no, no,
We are
no,
human,
no,
man.
nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. No, I
Living a
wish I was
human
exempt,
experience.
right?
Yes.
And so it's just like Everybody's aging, right? And people's point of view as a collective, as individuals, part of a collective, as part of the age that we live in,
Right.
right? Going back to how, things like Edge Magazine, things like this podcast, things like Into the Mythica, they can only exist because there's a certain level of awareness, right?
Right.
The we are, being mortal, we're in this space, and we're being these things for a limited time, for a limited time. And we want to see the magic unfolding. We want to have access to the communion with the Deva. We want to have access to the higher dimensions of ourselves. The issue
Yes.
is that people's gaze, including mine, this is the work, is occluded, meaning there is detritus and crap upon our gaze. It's like there's mud on your glasses,
Yeah.
right? And we can't see because that detritus is there. And what I'm saying in the Mythica is that I've lived Joseph Campbell's heroic journey, right? And I'm saying that the heroic journey has a heroic landscape that is the unique play of the ripple of yourself that is occurring along your timeline, that has its own geography and cast of characters. That cast of characters, like the tarot, is arriving at certain points that reflect our development,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's important for people to hear that it's your journey, your way of doing it, your cast of characters, and not anyone else's, and not to compare yourself to other people because so many people, like you were talking about Hollywood and Hollywood, you should really just worry about yourself. Don't compare to anyone else and enjoy your holy journey. Don't try to make it Hollywood. Com Making it different, I should say, my team is just saying they're showing me, they show me pictures. I keep telling them, I wish you could take what I see here and project it out so people could see it. But
That's actually why I don't. Hold on one second. I'm just going to close my outside door because they're mowing.
oh, okay. Look, poof, he disappeared into the Mythica.
Yeah, super loud. Okay, so now I'm back.
And
But
then poof, he comes right back into reality.
and here we are, right? Yeah, no, that's really a thing because it's like it's challenging because this is a real time thing. You're talking about desire.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And it's just, you don't always get what you want in the mortal plane. That's not real. You know what I'm
no.
saying? Like what the Rolling Stones are saying is a bit more real. Sometimes you get what you need, But it's like, but when you look at it in a yoga way, the mortal plane is run by desire. People, everyone wants to know how to manifest,
Yes.
right? But then the thing is that manifestation is super nuanced. It's not just like I have this desire and I'm going to focus on this desire until it manifests. I'm going to generate the amount of gravity for it in the Akasha until it manifests. Yeah. I manifested a publishing platform that publishes from the magical world. That's huge.
Yes.
That's like a Herculean task, man. Your job, like, is to clean the stables, right? You can't clean them, you know what I'm saying? Is to like show a map of the Akasha. And it took me 20 years. I mean, it was like super difficult. It was the heroic journey. The heroic journey is brutal. It's not like there's an explosion and then you're there with like the thing
Yeah.
somehow made it.
Lightning and
It wasn't in Rick and Morty where like Summer's there and she's in like in a cape, right? And
yeah.
she's like saying something about like it was hard for me, and Rick's just like no story that ends with a cape. It could be that bad, you wearing a cape. I was like, that's what's up. And so the and so it's just like, yeah, no, people compare themselves to others. And it's challenging because the comparison of self to others, it's not like I don't do it.
Everybody does it. I
I'm
mean,
not free from that sin, I assure you.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I get frustrated that I wanted to be this thing or that thing. And did I not get to do that, or is there still time to do that? I do it all the time, right? But it's useless. You know what I'm saying? And it just sets up agitation.
Yeah.
And so a big thing that I was on about was what causes the occlusion? What causes the inability to see the abundance? What
Yes.
causes the inability to see the opportunities? What causes the inability, what blocks the
Yeah.
perception of the magic? The assumption here is that it is there, but we're not seeing it.
Right.
And so as we're moving along the landscape of our legend, we're working to see the magic unfolding so as to anchor that into the body. So when your guides were saying, well, how do you anchor it into the body? My method has been to document it because that brought my attention to it. Energy follows attention,
Yes.
right? That brought my attention to it. So then I started seeing more of what was already there, which is more nuanced than I created this. Because then you get into the idea of like who create you're the creation. If you look at it from like that level,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And that's where you start getting what is identity? And this is why like the mat it's so nuanced, but it's like throughout the entire thread of human being. It's like I gave a this one is like people don't people can react to this, but so I gave a ride to a couple people, right? Because as I'm getting the Mythica out there, I've been Ubering and lifting people for extra money. And I
Ni-
actually love doing I actually love that job because I love to drive. I've always been a traveler. I'm the
Nice.
archetype of the person who brings people from one realm to another. So
Mm.
I've gotten like the best Uber driver award from the passengers like so many
Nice.
times. They're like, you're so entertaining. Your vibe is so good. We could do karaoke and doing the thing. And now I got like my little iPad there on the side. So I'm like, today's in-flight movie is Superman. It's like, but as I'm doing it, they're in the tabernacle of the chariot because they're in the radio. I'm like a real life magician coming back from the field. I'm not like, it's like I'm like an ambassador. So
Yes.
anyone who's around me is going to be around those vibrations. That's the nature of value, actually. We are being that thing. And they're
Yeah.
gaining more access to the Mythica because they're paying attention to the vibrations that I'm giving off because I've earned it. This is what happened with anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. You know what I'm saying? If someone
Absolutely.
is close to you, they're having more access.
Yeah. But, and that's something to realize. Everybody, people come to you and sometimes you'll just have people approach you for no reason. But they're doing it because you are creating access. You are creating the possibility. You don't have to talk about anything, but you have a vibration. You hold a vibration. And I can imagine being in your car with you would be a vibration to no end because it would be bouncing around inside.
Totally. And it becomes this thing where I'm aware that, and this is how I try to explain the Mythica to people. I'm like, okay, how can you explain the Mythica? I'm like, okay, we're driving up 101. Like I live like south of San Francisco, so I'm constantly driving people up and down to San Francisco, right? And so I'm just like, okay, we're on 101. We're on the road between Palo Alto, where I live, and San Francisco, which is a little bit north of here, right? And we're going forward in time and space. This is how I say it to them. So right now, say it's 6 o'clock, right? I'm like, it's 6 o'clock. We're in the car. We're traveling on 101. That's time and space. That is outer reality, outer space relative to the self, not outside the atmosphere of the planet,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's the outer space, and it's very obvious. It is this amount in time and space right now. It's for me. It's 1:09 p.m. It's probably what 4:09 or 3:09 for you.
309.
3:09 for you, Mountain Central, right? And
Yeah,
so
or Central Standard. Yep.
Central Standard. Thank you. And so that's where we are in time and space.
Mhm.
There's another aspect, dimension.
Mm.
We are deeper in the Mythica. Can you feel it?
Oh,
The
yes. Yes.
sensation. You know what I'm saying? And how do you live in it? It's a sensation that is opening. There's more access, and this becomes a whole thing about like, what are you talking about? Because it's creating that. So, and that becomes a whole thing about media, which is why I built the Mythica to create like a more clarified tone. all interconnected, you know. Remember Network, movie Network, Faye Dunaway, and
Oh,
back in the day,
yeah. Yes.
where the guy, he's like, what is Beals or something like that. He's the newscaster who has like a breakdown, and he becomes like a prophet, and he's just going on and on and on, and then the network like exploits him to make
Mhm.
money, right? But they're
Yeah.
all about the corporate and selling the thing, and then it's like when he's no longer useful, he's no longer useful to them.
Yeah.
And but I was just like Howard Beals was his name. And my whole thing was like, because I'm like a Howard Beals, I'm like, what if Howard Beals owned the network?
Mm.
Right? And I'm like, what if there was a network presenting this? And that was my basis for creating Into the Mythica. But in order to do it, I had to create a framework to show the layers of the land, to really understand the nature of occlusion.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because people can't see the magic. It's always going on.
Yeah.
So Underland is always there. The territories of Alice in Wonder, they're always there for you. You go into the kitchen, this person's being this archetype. This one's being this archetype. You're being this archetype. Guess what? You can't see it clearly. So now you're going into these things with each other. You're having a relationship. It's a whole thing. And it relates to clearing your gaze, which is different from I manifested this. And that's where it gets really nuanced. It's like, did
Mm.
you manifest it or did you come to see that which was already there? And now you're paying attention to it, which is increasing your awareness of it in your life. This is a very nuanced thing.
Yeah. Yes.
And a lot of people are like, I created this. And my observation has been more along the lines of like, it was already there. It was just a matter of seeing the leaves and branches of the tree. It's
Yes.
functionally the same. It's the same because you're experiencing a more magical reality. So it'd be like, you go to the coffee shop, you're feeling the abundant vibe, you've been focusing on your abundance, and all of a sudden you get into a conversation with somebody and you enter the space, you're feeling good about yourself, and they're responding to the energy, and the opportunity arises where there's something is happening for you, right?
Right.
The person arrived, you were there, it was already there. It was already there physically. It was already super basic. You were both there.
Yep.
Could you see the opportunity? Can you see it? If you can't see it, you can't act on it. You want to clear the occlusions from your lens.
That's very true because a lot of times you can be doing the same thing for years and all of a sudden you'll look at something and say you live in the same place or you have the same vehicle and all of a sudden one day you get into it and all of a sudden you notice something in the vehicle or in the house that's been there for years and you never saw it
Right,
until you were in the right space to see it.
right. And for me, and this is a really nuanced thing because for me, there's so I actually teach like that there's principles and expressions to your story, and that's what I'm presenting in the courses, which I'm actually going to redo the videos on. And one of the things, because I was so influenced by the Greco-Roman thing, like the muses, what came to me was that there were certain principles on our story that everybody dealt with.
Yeah.
And I envision them as like these Greco-Roman sculptures that you're encountering in the circular garden labyrinth of your life. The circles being like your patterns are repeating.
Right.
And one of those, the statues, so to speak, that you encounter is, well, one of them is Kairos, of course, and Kairos is like the scenes in your story. But we were just talking about the, as I spaced for a second, we're talking about how the something is occurring for you and you realize something that was already there,
Yes.
right? And so a big thing that I was on about um was, because being on the heroic journey is not easy. You go through like the very real dark night of the soul or nights or decades, and you know this thing, and it's like you have these moments of elation and you're bringing back the gift of the goddess and stuff like that. And the a big thing for me, big, huge for me, was the question of, is God good?
Mm,
because this age is tough.
yes.
People have occlusions. They can't see the abundance.
Right.
Thou hast eyes, but you cannot see,
True.
right?
True.
And so I was of the like, if the environment is like this, it just felt unjust to the people because I was like, people suffer from not
Yeah.
being able to see choices.
Yeah.
Or like they're demanded to not have judgment. They don't know why. They don't see that having judgments about things like creates more occlusions because of the
Right.
physics of karma. They don't see that.
Yeah.
So they're in it. It demands a certain relationship with the greater force in life, and then we definitely go into I'm grateful for this, I'm thankful for this, but this is like it's kind of like you're having a relationship with like a tidal wave.
Mm, true.
You know what I'm saying? You're having a relationship with an earthquake, it's like it's bigger than you, much bigger than you, much bigger than you.
And that I think that's hard for people to understand sometimes is the more division, the more you feel you're not connected, the more it creates more energy of not being connected, the more it creates energy of division. It's knowing that when you step out of that, you realize we are connected. We're that fabric that comes together. We are all part of it. All of us, every single one of us are part of it. No matter who they are, you're still part of that fabric.
Completely. Completely. We are the characters in each other's stories. We are the villains, we are the heroes, heroines. We are the pantheon. We are the
Absolutely.
tarot cards that meet each other on the timeline. So for me, witnessing my timeline became a way of looking at, oh, what is the lattice? What is the tapestry?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about mindfulness or we talk about stuff like that, it's like it's all really in the context of seeing things more clearly. And
I
so,
think that's important to see things more clearly, to understand it from a different level. From my team has always kind of said like sometimes we see things through one kind of glasses and change the lens and see what you see the next time. And that's what you're kind of saying is change the lens so you can see it differently. And it
totally.
really starts bringing the whole world back in focus.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing is actually about the lens. So while I was having this mythopoetic journey, I was also, as an explorer, like Journey to the Center of the Earth, I'm also really learning like what is the nature of the physics of being a droplet, going all the way back to that, right?
Yes.
Of being a droplet, which is made of the elements, right? And so it's like, like it's an understanding, like seeing yourself as a droplet of like raindrop with earth, air, fire, and water, and either like all contained within that in minute degrees, and being like, okay, like I'm a droplet in the ocean. I know people like to say like you're the ocean in a drop. And I'm like, something? It's a lot more clarified to see that the other way around. Like you're a
Yes.
droplet in the ocean, don't get like I know you wanna like talk your way into enlightenment. I get that. Right. But it's just like, recognizing that you're like little thing inside the wave is helpful.
Yeah.
It's for the ego. And but
True.
yeah, totally. And
Mm.
so the overall vibe on that is that what are the physics of the quest? And that's one of the things that I got into because I was like, why is it that I'm seeing the magic at one point or another on my timeline and I'm able to shoot photos of it, right? Shoot photos of people with the light and the radiance. And I mean, people like they love my photography, right? And because it has that captures that moment. And
Absolutely.
and then when I got back from the quest, just to say in 2022, and the AI came out with like Mid Journey and Runway and other ways of creating images, I already had 20 years of photos and sketches that I'd done. So
Right.
I segued into the AI to start filling in the story to illustrate the Mythica. So when you were saying your guides are saying it to you and you just want to project that, that's what I built was the ability to visualize the thing. This goes back to Alan Moore's Promethea
Nice.
comic book. It's a modern hieroglyph. What are you saying? I'm
Right.
doing this. Can you prove it? Yeah, I'm gonna relate it to these moments on my timeline, which I'm
Right.
what? Relate to where I was at in the GPS coordinates of time and space is Professor Plum in the observatory with the wrench, right? And I was like,
Love it.
yeah, totally. I was there. It was 1:20 p.m. PST, right? And I was there with, Angela in time and space, but in the dimensions, now we're showing you and I as like in this pantheonic mythopoetic thing, because that's really what's going on.
Yes.
And
And
it's
everybody listening and watching is joining in that dimension, joining
totally,
part of it, and creating a whole, they just keep showing like a explosion of understanding, an explosion of just our expanded consciousness as we understand more of who we are, and they're going, wiping our lenses.
yeah, it's wiping your lens. And it's not easy. It is not easy. I mean, I assure you, it is really hard. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do because
But the
you'll have
most rewarding.
oh, totally. Totally. But like for example, like let's say I'm giving someone a ride in the Uber and I'm going through a thing and I'm just like, why hasn't this taken off yet? And da, 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 I've done so much work and da, 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 da. Why am I not always remembering the magic? I still go through that. I still go through that. That's real life, right? And but then a moment later, I might be like, I am Hermes Trismegistus, chariot driver to the gods. And like the people who are coming into my thing, they are in an experience and nothing has changed on the outside.
Right.
Can't do anything about the mower sound out there. It's the way it is, but it's just like,
It does. It's mitigating it. I don't even hear it.
oh, epic. Okay. My suffering. So
Yeah.
are you
It's
really
your
saying, are
perception
you
there.
hearing mowers? Mowers? I'm not hearing anything, man. I think you're tripping. And so, and then a moment later, I'm like, no, man, I'm like bringing people from one octave of consciousness to another. Them being in the car with me is for real receiving the radiance. It's like someone watching your show.
Yes.
They're getting the radiance of you. They're getting the echo of your guides, man. And you're an aspect of them. And
Yes.
this is that understanding. So it gets into like something I get into in an attempt to clear the occlusions is how to have right relationship with people. And this is one of the statues that came to me in the labyrinth of life was ethos.
Mm,
Then ethos and the other aspects, and there's a number of them, are all related to the most fundamental principle, which also relates coming all the way back to the law of correspondence. Right? So what I'm saying, and I'm gonna lay it out for the viewers because we've gotten into it, and I know it's some heady stuff for people, right?
yeah.
It's like saying when you think of Alice in Wonderland and you think of your story, you are walking, and everyone is walking on the surface of the world, right?
Yeah.
There are layers to the land. You could look at it in terms of like higher layers, like way up here is the formless, and you're descending into the earth as a soul, coming down into the layers, and now you're in the body. But looking at that from the upper world and looking at that from the lower world are actually the same thing.
Mm,
See what
yeah.
I'm saying? The formless is down here, the formless is up here. This is, you've got like your archetypes of consciousness. Okay, this is the elements,
Yeah.
archetypes, collective unconscious, subconscious, Middle Earth, where we live, Midgard.
Midgard. Yeah.
Midgard as compared to Asgard, which is not like, and so this gets into the Rainbow Bridge.
Mm,
What is the Rainbow Bridge? I'm making sense, yeah? So when you're
yeah.
walking on your path, right? Everyone, there is a line of your spine that is your chakras. Your chakras are creating the lens of your perspective. It's your glasses. Your glasses are like kaleidoscopic.
Right.
The colors of yourself. That's how you're seeing the world because of the vertical line of your chakras, right? But the vertical line of your chakras, you're walking through life, is also happening on the horizontal line of your timeline,
True.
right?
Yes. It all intersects.
Where those two things meet is where you are at. So if you are like, if I'm in, say, I'm sitting here with you horizontal. This is where I am on my path. But you and I are here having a conversation that's crown chakra, all these things. We're in that dimension of life. That's the rainbow bridge. You talk about the bridge. Thor takes the bridge from like Midgard to Asgard, right? Heimdall opened the gate, right? That whole thing. What I'm saying is that in the Mythica, I'm presenting the structure for the real subtle world, right?
Right.
The layer of the Mythica that's going on. And I'm saying that structurally, your timeline is the thread of your life. You are an adventurer. You're a heroine, you're a hero, you're a they, whatever, right? Whatever your self-identity is, you are on the thread of your timeline. This
Right.
is the thread of the fates.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at, right?
Yes.
Every adventurer deals with this. The fates supersede the gods. You're born, you're going to die. Here's your midline.
You're
You
the
have multiple
dash.
lifetimes. What's that?
You're the dash.
Yeah, you're the dash, right? You got multiple lifetimes going on. It's a braided thread of many lifetimes, many this and that, but you're experiencing it at your current timeline.
Hmm.
That movement is through consciousness, through your
Yes.
chakras. Dependent on where you are with this, you're going to experience a certain version of this.
True.
This is where you're at. And this is what I wanted to get to anchor the Mythica for someone. You could be in a Starbucks. It's not just a Starbucks. It is a tavern where you are meeting other adventurers to pick up an elixir of speed or whatever that thing. I'll have 6 sugars. Yes. Yes.
That's a good way to look at it.
You know, and people do that. It's their romance, you know. It's like, oh, we were at the water together, and I felt you as this priestess. I felt you as my sacred king, you know. And then, but it's real. It's
Yes.
not just make believe. It's seeing that thing that's already in there.
Yeah.
So how do we hold on to that? That is the challenge of the age. So when we're saying you're on your quest, you're on your timeline, your experience of your timeline is related to where you're at with your chakras,
Yes.
what you're able to see. The synchronicities that are arriving on your timeline are the relationships and archetypes that are related to your own elemental substance and that of the people around you. So, for
Love.
example, you get it. So it's like, for example, during I love that I documented this because I have like the solid on that, right?
it.
So if I say when I traveled to Canada in 2008, right, and I traveled with the Mythmaker Circus.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. The ringleader of the Mythmaker Circus was this dude Heron O'Shea. And Heron is a brother of mine, and he's like a full-on like Viking avatar. Like he really
Nice.
lives in it. He comes from Winlaw, Canada, right? And Winlaw is in Slocan, so I might be a little bit off with the naming, but Winlaw is south of the Valhalla Mountains.
Okay.
So the energy of that Norse energy is in the naming of the place, which is now part of his mythos. Now
Mm.
I'm connecting with him, and I'm coming from Lake Tahoe, where I'm like studying with the Fae, and I'm having this whole Norse Asgardian thing / Celtic Avalonian thing, where now I'm traveling and I'm connecting with Heron, and now I'm in the Norse realms.
Got it.
Do you see what I'm getting at? Like
Yep.
mountains, snow, Vikings. I've got a giant wolf by my side that came to me through casting a spell when I was at the academy. I have photo proof, right?
Nice.
I'm going to Oregon a little bit later in the quest, right? I'm meeting with all these people who are like in the Avalonian thing. I'm going to the goddess temple of Ashland. Grail Valandar, she's like, or Calebri, she's just her last name's constantly changing. She is, she's like high priestess. She's going off to Avalon to have the thing with like the well with people. She's like full on priestess. Now I
Mm.
end up like dating one of the priestesses there named Dakota Chanel. Dakota, she is like a full on priestess of water, and she's into the Magdalene line, and she's into the Omri to orgasm thing. And I mean, she's just like, and she's like the high example of like an Avalonian royal, right? So when I'm coming back to Fairy Worlds, and going back to the Fairy Worlds thing, right? With like Emilio Lopez and Kelly Miller Lopez and the awesome collection of fairy characters there. When I got to Fairy Worlds in 2008, when I traveled with the Myth Maker, Taranoshi, after I left the mountains of Tahoe, right, to go
Yeah.
traveling, and I made it to the thing, I travel with them, I come to Fairy Worlds, and I realized that I'm like a royal of the fairy clan. I'm like a bardic royal. Like I'm like there documenting the quest, I'm playing music, and I'm living that life. And I'm like encountering all these people in this archetypical form. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, but that's real. Like it's really going on. I mean, sometimes it's like it's more blatant in certain
Right.
places. Like they're wearing the costumes, people like they're really
Right.
dedicated into it. You're like
It's
you
more
take
visceral. You can see it. You can experience it when they're in costume, when you're doing that. You can experience it in that
totally.
more visual, it sets the mood.
It sets the mood, but it's always going on.
Right.
Is it coming out more when you do that? Yes. Is it coming out more when you live the life? Yes. Right? If you're being a priestess all the time, totally. It sets them where you're
Absolutely.
paying attention to that. But if your attention and your mind, if your mind is on like the other things, it's still there,
Yeah.
but it's the buried treasure of
And
your
that's a really good way of looking at it with it's being buried treasure when you're not in the moment, it not and my team is kind of backing me up to something you had said earlier about how when you're in the moment, when you're witnessing the ups and downs, because we're human, we see the ups and downs, but then we can recognize when we've fallen out of it, when we have that doubt within us, and then we kind of fall out and go, oh man, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can get there. And then you remember who you are. And then you go, oh yes, I can do it. This is who I am. I can get that next contract. I can get that book written. I can get this created. You're remembering who you are, and that's something important. You're knowing how to get yourself out of it, where before a lot of times people don't know how to get from here to knowing, like, okay, I have a doubt, that's okay, I can get myself back out. That's
right.
huge.
Right. And so in the topography of the Mythica, what I've been on about is like this goes back to Underland, right? So I get into the idea of something I call the Shadowlands as compared to the Brightlands, where it's like if you're in the Shadowlands, and I've spent a lot of time in the Shadowlands. I actually own a timeshare in the Shadowlands. So I go
Oh,
there sometimes to get to be moody and depressed. And so um right, but like when we move, but this is like showing the topography of our journey through the
right,
realms of consciousness. Because when we're in the shadow realms, it's like we can't
right,
see our own value. And it plays out as tightness in the body. Why? Because and then this, I'm very brass tacks. Like I said, I think I've said that 3 times. It's just like I want to anchor the magic for people. Like, what's going on? Your spine and your nervous system have patterns on the
yeah,
subtle layer, everyone's, that are karmic patterns that you're going to experience as energetic blockages and discomforts and agitations. And then there's going to be a relationship when you look at some kind of a pattern in your life, and you're going to feel it. Oh, I feel that in my belly, or I feel that in my solar plexus. And
right,
like the grounding on that is like something is in the lattice of your spine and your nervous system. And you're identifying it by bringing your awareness to it. Now you're having like a sensory experience with that, right? But now
yes.
let's look at you're on your path. You encounter that person who you hate, but you used to sleep with. And now it's just like, I know something's coming up in your body and they remind you of something that went down with this person so many years ago in your life. And you just want to let go, man. I love myself. Right?
It's true though, and it brings you back and makes you just to understand it and know, and just like my team is saying, just like before, how you find a way to bring yourself out of it, to know like that was a time, but now I'm here. I'm not that person anymore. I can move forward.
Right. But that takes a lot of mindfulness.
Yes.
The problem is the gravity of the undercurrent. The undertow
Mhm.
pulls you back. So, real talk. I was super bummed out last night, right? Like I'd finally gotten the car. I've got the video going on. I got this going on. But then I looked at the work of the Mythica and I'm like, oh my God, I've been repeating this over and over again. When am I going to get this out there? But then as I'm doing the video with you, I'm like, wait, this is my power place. I'm funny. You know what I'm saying? Like I've got persona. But then it's just like, why did I forget? And I'm not
Yes.
saying that in a pretentious way. I'm saying that like everybody forgets. And so it's
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it defines the mindfulness. It defines the you are worthy conversation. But all of this comes from those very subtle yet physical
Hmm.
patterns. Where? In the spine and the nervous system, which are part of what? Your droplet
Yes,
of your identity. So now you're going into your consciousness, which is going into your personal underland. And that underland is playing out on a macro level as your story.
absolutely.
Like my story was archetypically the thing, but also understand I'm like super committed to it. Like I don't have like it's like I haven't lived in the common world. I've lived in this other world like completely.
Right.
So that's been actually super hard because it's like what people don't understand what you're on about. But then bringing the gift of the goddess, this is like the gift of Shakti, like the gift of understanding her nature, which is form. So if I say the spine and the twine of your
Mm.
nervous system, right? They make it into a
Yes.
rhyme. The spine and the twine. It's a lovely fairy rhyme. All the troubles, all the trials, all the traumas fine are held inside the body mind, inside the spine and twine, right? And so
I love
Peter
that.
Fay, agent of Bardic arts, research and relevant, right? And and so it's like understanding that the spine and twine of the self are what are creating your perception of
Yes.
reality. And on a deeper level, the spine and twine of the self are a subset
Yeah.
of the spine and twine of the planet.
True.
People live in the illusion of separation. We are not separate from the planet. We're the seeds grown in of the consciousness manifesting through the roots and the branches and the leaves
Yes.
of our story as a part of the tree. So when people talk about, just going to the Asgard thing, the rainbow bridge, the
Yeah.
Bifrost, right? You're talking about your chakras. The Asgard's a state of being. Midgard is a state of being. Most people live in Midgard. They're not completely like in the animal realm, but they're definitely not in the God realm of themselves. I'm
Oh,
not taking that
right.
away from people. I'm saying let's just be real where you're at. I have to be real with where I'm at.
And that's the thing, for everyone to be real with where you're at. And it's also knowing every time you feel like you're off balance or not quite where you need to be, it's knowing you were on balance before, you were connected before. Go back to that moment and you put yourself back on the path. It is so key to know everybody gets off. Everybody gets off balance. It's normal, it's human, it's who we are. But how soon can you get yourself back on? How can you get yourself back on? That's the key. That's
It
the key for everything moving forward.
it is, and so it's just the the understanding of that. And so when we say that, it's we're all living in these mythopoetic worlds and we're all processing these shadows and we're all processing these subconscious patterns. And they occlude our ability to see who we really are, you know?
Absolutely.
And so as we move through the relationships in our lives, my observation has been I'm with priestesses and Jedi, and I've got like an alpha dominant thing with this person. I'm like, oh, but I want to live in the round table thing. Oh, we're processing this thing of ancient kingship and right. Or this person is doing this thing, and it's like, oh, we're going through this wound. It's just like everybody's going through that.
Yeah,
And it defines the story itself if you look at it as the theater. So
absolutely.
yeah. So if the Bifrost is the Bifrost, whatever people call it, is the rainbow bridge of the chakras, moving you from Asgard to Midgard and stuff like that version of yourself where you have access or you don't. Then the world tree, the Gautama Buddha sits beneath the tree, the web of life, the grove of life, which is what I use, the tree of stories, also what I use, the world tree, tree of life is the Kabbalah, but the constant there beneath the impermanences of cultures
Yeah,
and attachment to that, this is where we're coming from, right? Is the tree itself. And the tree itself is the material plane. And that's where I'm saying that you are a part of the tree. We're all a part of the tree. So our healing from the distorted patterns actually is related to our relationship with nature because
yeah,
nature holds the purified patterns. They're not layered with
Absolutely.
all the human stuff from all the karmas in the lifetimes.
Right.
Water is water. But all the karmas in the human lifetimes are made of water, earth, air, fire, and space. So
It's
then,
all part of it, but yet you can understand it and tap into it and get the beautiful pureness of water and realize you can release a lot of that's been held in the water.
right. And so then you start getting into alchemy.
Yeah.
You start getting into like, well, and now you get Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, anything.
Yeah.
Even the angelic symbols of like Reiki are based on the deva. And
True.
so when I'm having the experience with the deva of the lightning, it's like experiencing the elementals of that. So my look, oh, well, we're the gods. Oh, we're being mortal. Oh, but everything's made of the elements.
Yeah.
So it becomes this like structural understanding. But the simplicity of it is everyone has an underland.
True.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you can get into the minutia of it. I can say like if I say Gaia, the planet, is a living organism. We are these like seeds in the intelligence of the universe, the divine mind, manifesting through the planet, which is now manifesting through the collective, which is now manifesting through your individual lineage. Like
Yes.
that's the conversation. And then someone, it's like putting things in context. You are a droplet in the ocean.
Absolutely.
Are you
And
the ocean in a drop? Sure, man. You got to do a lot of yoga to get there.
yeah, a lot.
You know.
Together we create the ocean.
Yeah, you're telling yourself that you're evil Knievel does not mean that you can
Yeah.
make that
Doesn't mean
jump.
you're gonna make it.
That
Oh
only
man.
goes so far,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh man. Well, I know we've been going long here, Peter, and I think we're gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon. I know you've got to get out of here pretty soon, and
This has
I
been
just,
great.
but I want to, so people can contact you on intothemythica.com. You're also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, um, X, and YouTube, and you have courses. You do sessions, courses. What do you have available then?
So, one of my allies from the Quest, Cassandra, as in the Oracle Cassandra, right?
Hmm.
She went to school for at the academy with me. So she and I actually, so she gives readings for people on their individual path. Whereas what I've been on about, I've been really busy with creating the world for people.
Hmm.
So I may start offering like stuff to really help people identify their story and clear out their consciousness. And that would be under the guidance page in Into the Mythica. And I'm definitely available to give talks and stuff like that. I've just been honestly for real, it's like I do the work of 20 people. So it's like, creating the maps, doing the graphics, doing the AI, doing I'm going to start hosting my own podcast. So I might
Nice.
not have time to give people individual guidance sessions, but Cassandra can, right? And
Yes.
but I may open that up. I may open that up. We'll see. But right now I need to finish off a bunch of the courses and blah 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 blah. But the essence of it is come to the Mythica, learn the techniques. I may open something up where I start giving help people understand their quest so they can understand the
Yes.
principles of the quest. That actually I could probably do that as an offering. So it's saying to people like what we've talked about today, what is the nature of your story? What is occlusion on your perspective? How do we connect with the elements? How do you live your myth? How do you see the
Yes.
myth that's already going on inside of you? Right? There's that. And now I'm going to be selling comics, doing videos. I'm going to be doing interviews with the other characters from the Mythica. And we're also going to lead to their goods and services because what I designed was a temple of story to lead to the characters like Grail, like Heron, like Dakota, like yourself, that I meet on the quest to
Yeah.
show how we are this pantheon of emergent avatars sharing the road to remembrance together.
Love that. And I know on your site you can go through and search things, I think by letter or by things, and you
Oh,
can
the
there's so
Mythopedia.
much. Yeah, the Mythicpedia.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
there's so
Mythopedia.
much
I
on.
created because I realized that most people don't understand what I'm talking about. So I created
Yes.
like an online Wikipedia that you can flip
Yes.
through the terms so that when I present them in the articles and you'll understand what I'm saying.
Yes. So that is all on your website. So I encourage people go to his website, Into the Mythica, and check that all out. There's that. You have some courses, different things on there. A lot of great things to check out. So I'm just encouraging everyone, go check it out. And the artwork and the backgrounds are amazing when you're on there. I've checked them out and I thank you so much. They are just amazing to look at. Amazing backgrounds, amazing artwork. So definitely check it out.
I appreciate that so much. I put so much effort into creating a beautiful modern hieroglyph for the people. I was like less than 1% of the people get what I'm a great speaker, but the words, like the images really land it, you know?
Yes, and
Okay.
they are amazing. So I've seen them. They are amazing. I encourage people go check out his website and check out everything else with Peter. It's the intothemythica.com. You won't be disappointed. So I can't wait for you to check it out. And I've got to say, is there anything else you want to say before we close today, Peter?
You've been awesome. Thank you to your guides.
Oh,
Thank you to
thank
you.
you.
And I love the work that you're doing in the world. I feel that we are part of this larger renaissance of remembrance. And I want to thank you for your presence, as because there's no separation, right? Your presence and the opportunity to share what I'm on about was a gift of remembrance for myself that helped me anchor into the magic that's already going on. And I say that in humility, like we all go through it, man. And I
Yeah,
appreciated the opportunity to share and the resonance that we had that helped, I feel, both of us and the audience anchor more into the Mythica.
I love that. Thank you so much, Peter. I appreciate you and everything we've been doing today. And before we get on, we had a heck of a lot of fun before we even got on here. It was so fun. And to be in your presence and to know what you're doing is helping so many. There are so many people that what you are doing resonates deeply with. And I'm excited to play a part of you connecting to more people. And I am just honored to be in your presence. So thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for
Likewise,
all you do.
I give you the real namaste. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like I genuinely bow to you.
But I want to thank you again, Peter. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your knowledge, sharing your time. I appreciate it so much. And I also want to encourage people to make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They are on the first and the third Wednesdays of each month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any of the past episodes, no worries. You can go to either my YouTube channel or Edge Magazine's YouTube channel. You can catch all of the old episodes that are up there. And also on pretty much all the downloadable podcast areas, they're out there. Go ahead and look for them. You'll find them. And with all of that, I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank you, Peter, for being here and all of you people who are listening and joining us. Thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Thank you all and have an absolutely amazing day.